Hey everyone, welcome back to First-Hand Globetrotting. Usually when you think of amusement parks, you picture places full of massive roller coasters, right? But today, I'm going to tell you about a place where the rides are a little slower and aimed at a younger crowd, Sesame Place. As you probably guessed from the name, this park's based on Sesame Street, one of the longest running and most popular kids shows on television. So, if you've got some young children in your life, sit back and I'll tell you everything you need to know to plan a trip to Sesame Place. The park's in Langhorne, Pennsylvania, about 30 minutes from Philadelphia. If you're driving, there's plenty of paid parking available at the park. But if you're coming from out of town, nearly every hotel in Langhorne caters to the Sesame Place visitors. So most of them have free shuttles to take you between the hotel and the park. If you're going with little Sesame Street fans, the excitement will start as soon as you get to the front gate when they start seeing their favorite characters. I went there with someone who was a little under 3 years old, and it was just about the perfect age. She was old enough to know and love the Sesame Street characters, tall enough for most of the rides, but young enough that the rides still seemed exciting. As long as your child's 3 feet tall, they can ride nearly every ride in the park, so it's mostly for kids 4 years old and under. Now let's talk about what you can see and do once you get there. The park is broken down into different neighborhoods, each with their own theme. As soon as you walk into the park, you end up in Sesame Plaza, and you'll be greeted by some big sculptures of Elmo, Big Bird, and Snuffy. This area is mostly just an entry point to the rest of the park. The welcome center's here, some stores and little shops, but not many rides. The one ride that is in Sesame Plaza is the Super Grover-themed Vapor Trail. It's one of the only rides in the park that's for older kids and adults. So it'll go faster and has some more drops, twists, and turns than the other Sesame Place rides. But even then, it's pretty mild by amusement park standards. As you walk through Sesame Plaza, you come to Sesame Neighborhood. All of the buildings in this area are made to look like places from Sesame Street, like Oscar's Garage and Hooper's Store. So it's a great place to stop and take some pictures. Plus, you'll find some Sesame Street characters hanging out there throughout the day. There almost always seem to be a character or two in Sesame Neighborhood. The kids can meet them and get their pictures taken, which was a huge hit and led to a lot of smiling and excited faces. The one ride in Sesame Neighborhood is the Sunny Day Carousel. In my experience, the carousel was definitely really popular, and we went on quite a few rides around it. The area around the carousel has a few of the park's restaurants like Elmo's Eatery and Cookie's Cafe. Like most amusement parks, the food at Sesame Place is nothing fancy and a little overpriced, but you don't really have any other options. There are also some stores there that will give you plenty of Sesame Street merchandise to spend your money on. They've got mountains of stuffed Sesame Street characters to buy, plus plenty of shirts, clothes, pins, toys, and all that other fun stuff. Once you're done eating and shopping, there are 2 other really cool things to do in Sesame Neighborhood, the shows. The first show is Elmo the Musical, and it takes place in Sesame Studio. In that one, Elmo and Cookie Monster go on a detective adventure trying to find Cookie Monster's lost cookie. It's a small theater and indoors, so it's a good option if you want to get out of the sun and see 2 of the most popular characters up close. The other show is The Magic of Art in the Neighborhood Theater. This one features Abby and has even more of the Sesame Street characters singing, dancing, and talking about art. Another good thing is that the shows are pretty short and fast-paced, so they seem to keep most of the kids' attention. Okay, so after meeting some characters and seeing some shows, you'll want to go on more of the rides, right? The neighborhood with the most dry rides is Cookie's Monsterland, which is of course named after Cookie Monster. He's also featured on a ride right in the middle of the neighborhood, Captain Cookie's High Sea Adventure. You ride in pirate ships that go up and down over the waves, while Pirate Cookie Monster watches you from the center. Another cookie-themed ride is the Flying Cookie Jars. You start on the ground, but then some cookie balloons raise you up 40 feet into the air. As you're spinning around up there, you get a nice view of the rest of Cookie's Monsterland. If your kids are tired of waiting in line and just want to run around and climb and play, they can go to the Monster Clubhouse or Mini Monster Clubhouse. There are nets to climb up, rope bridges to run across, and other things to help them burn off some energy. Right below the Monster Clubhouse is Oscar's Rusty Rotten Rockets. You sit in a garbage can spaceship and go around a small oval that quickly whips you around each of the turns as you fly through space. Another twisting ride is Honker Dinger Derby. The ride spins the race cars around in a circle, while each of the arms twists and spins you even more. And if you want to spin around even more, you can go on the Monster Mix-Up. It's Sesame Street, Disco Movie, and a teacup ride all mashed up into one. The rides in Cookie's Monsterland are great, but don't forget to take some time to visit 123 Smile With Me. It's where the Sesame characters have scheduled photo opportunities throughout the day, so you'll see a lot more happy kids there as they meet Elmo, Abby, Big Bird, and the rest of their favorites. The other neighborhood full of rides is Elmo's World. As you probably guessed, this area is named after the Elmo's World segment from the TV show and features everyone's favorite red monster. One of the most popular rides here is the Flying Fish. It's an aerial carousel ride where you pilot an Elmo-faced fish around Elmo as he snorkels. Since it's right in the middle, while you're riding in it, you can get a pretty good view of everything else going on in Elmo's World. If you want more high-flying rides, you can go on Elmo's Cloud Chaser next. It's a big swing ride that tilts you and turns you as you fly through the sky with Airplane Elmo. Another ride in this area is the Blast Off. It's a tower drop ride that lifts you up into space before dropping you back down to Earth a few times. If you like the twists and turns but want to stay a little closer to the ground, you can go on the Peek-a-Bug. This ride is in Elmo's garden, so he watches you while you spin and slide around. And if your child likes sliding, they can take a trip down Snuffy Slides. Or, if all these rides made you hot, you can go down Bert and Ernie's slip and slide water slides and splash down into the pool at the end. Speaking of water slides, there are a few neighborhoods that make up the water park portion of Sesame Place. Right next to Elmo's World is the Count's Court. There are a few water slides there, like the Slippery Slopes. It's 4 short slides that let you race down to the bottom. The other water slide is Sesame Street. You sit on some big inner tubes for this one and go down a curvy track until you splash down in the pool at the bottom. Count's Court is also where you can play some carnival games if you want to try to win a prize. But the highlight of the neighborhood is the Count Splash Castle. It's a huge wading pool and multi-level splash park filled with slides, water spray cannons, spraying water, and much, much more. The funnest part of the Splash Castle is that every few minutes the Count does a countdown, and at the end dumps a 1,000-gallon bucket of water on everything down below. And even better, since it's a splash park, you can go right in without any lines. If you want a water area that's a little bit slower with a more relaxed pace, then try Sesame Island. It's right next to Sesame Neighborhood, so it has its own themed buildings when you walk in, making it look like the waterfront part of Sesame Street. But the major reason to go to Sesame Island is for Big Bird's Rambling River. It's a slow-moving, 1,000-foot lazy river that winds its way through the neighborhood. You just grab a tube, hop on, and let the current float you down the river. As you go around, there are a few fountains and water features to spray you, but mostly it's just a relaxing time laying on your tube and enjoying the sunshine. Keeping with the island theme, there's also Sandcastle Beach if you want to play in the sand. Or if the Count Splash Castle was too big and wild for you, Ernie's Waterworks is a smaller splash park to play around in. Sesame Island also has a few stores and restaurants, but they're pretty similar to the ones in the rest of the park. The third water park area is Twiddlebug Land, and it's actually got some of the biggest water attractions at Sesame Place. The first thing you'll probably notice is Sky Splash. It's a huge water slide that you ride down in big rafts that can fit the whole family. There's even a rubber ducky at the top that sprays water on you as you start down the slide. Twiddlebug Land also has the teeny tiny tidal wave pool. It's a shallow 10,000 square foot pool that has Ernie watching over it with his garden hose. You can also take a ride down slimy chutes. They aren't nearly as big as the Sky Splash, but they're still fun. There are a few smaller dry rides like the Mix and Match Twiddle Tracks Railroad, or the Silly Sand Slide where kids can climb up a big pile of balls before sliding back down. If all of these slower kids rides aren't enough for you, you can head over to Oscar's Wacky Taxi. It's in an area all by itself, but it's definitely worth checking out if you want something faster. By Sesame Place standards, it's definitely the biggest and fastest roller coaster in the park. Plus, since it's a wooden coaster, it really bounces around a lot, which adds to the experience of thinking you're in a taxi driven by Oscar. But since it's bigger and faster, most of the people riding it are older siblings and parents. Okay, I've told you about all the neighborhoods and rides and slides and shows, but there's one other thing you need to do at Sesame Place. Every day they have a scheduled parade that runs through Sesame Plaza and Sesame Neighborhood. It's filled with floats, Sesame characters, dancers, singing, all that good stuff. If you find a seat along the parade route early enough, you can get right up close to the action. Not only do they walk by and wave to everyone, but they also stop to do some choreographed song and dance numbers along the way. So, if your kids are really excited to see the Sesame characters, this is a great chance to see them all in one place. Plus, after spending the rest of the day standing in lines and riding rides, it's a good chance to sit down, relax, and have a break. Depending on how late you're willing to stay, they also have a nighttime version of the parade some days. It's a lot like the daytime version of the parade, but with added lights, bubbles, and glow sticks. It's kind of like a toddler dance party. And if you're lucky, they might even have a fireworks display after the parade right before the park closes. The children may be tired by the end, but it's a great way to end a fantastic day at Sesame Place. There are a few other things worth mentioning for planning your trip to Sesame Place. First, if you don't like waiting in lines, you can buy a Magic Queue upgrade that gives you priority access to rides. There were a few rides where the lines got a little long, but generally they weren't all that bad the days we went, so we didn't get the upgrade. But if you're only there for a day or it's really busy, it might be worthwhile to get. The other thing is their rain guarantee. If you go and it rains for an hour or more, you get a free ticket to come back another day. One of the days we went was rainy. So during the rain, we did all the indoor activities like the shows, and then used our free ticket for the next day. It was really helpful to know that the rain wouldn't ruin our day and waste our tickets. So that's it, everything you need to know to plan your trip to Sesame Place. As I said at the start, it's built for younger kids, so it'll be a hit with them, but might be a little slow for older kids and adults. But I found it was definitely worth the trip to see all the fun and excitement from riding rides, meeting their favorite characters, and all the other fun. Hopefully this helps you plan your trip, but if you have any questions, ask me in the comments. While you're at it, make sure to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to my channel. On Twitter, I'm Firsthand Globe. On Instagram, I'm Firsthand Globetrotting. Follow me on there. And don't forget, it's an incredible world out there, so pick up your passport and do some firsthand globetrotting of your own.